It seems inevitable. If a brand is successful enough, it will become open world. Yet many open world games are treading water, in particular because Ubisoft and Sony have established a very specific formula for how open worlds are to be designed. So there was both anticipation and skepticism when the Souls games with Elden Ring also turned to this genre. After all, the Souls games shined with intimate level design on a smaller scale, which defied mainstream conventions. Ultimately, Elden Ring was able to become a smash hit both in critical reception and in sales. This video is gonna take a look back at how it subverted expectations to come out on top compared to other open world games, and why, despite some flaws and familiar tropes, it remains a shining example for the genre and beyond. It has become an open world cliché. Screens plastered with mission objectives, fetch quests, and endless icons which you mechanically work through. What suffers the most from this kind of design is exploring, as penetrating handholding diminishes the feeling of freedom. You no longer have to explore locations yourself, instead players hold the stick towards the next GPS point, with often no hurdles on the way. Now, open worlds are visually complex and frustration could arise if you didn't find the next waypoint easily. However, this makes Souls games like Bloodborne or other classics like Metroid feel freer than many open worlds. The maps do have limits there, yet superficial handholding is absent. Such games use visual and gameplay cues to guide players invisibly. One of the first mainstream titles trying to apply this concept to modern open worlds was Zelda Breath of the Wild. You laid icons yourself, and the rest was independent exploration based on visual wayfinding. But beyond that, open worlds, including Breath of the Wild, also often suffer from the desire to become bigger and bigger. The illusion of an open world is sometimes shattered when its copy-paste enemy camps and not so spontaneous map events become repetitive, or when rewards and secrets don't become more interesting over time. The bigger the map, the greater the danger of a homogeneous level design or just boring empty space. Exploration classics with a tight scale like Metroid or Souls didn't have this problem, and they often had significantly more unique mechanics and backdrops. Even in Breath of the Wild, where it takes longer than usual, sooner or later map elements start repeating and become predictable. The world is massive, but almost no treasure as rewarding as stumbling upon an item with unique gameplay mechanics in A Link to the Past. Likewise, the best Souls worlds trump with many unique secrets that feel handcrafted, not copy-pasted. In other words, the best exploration games are not predictable and don't take away player agency to keep discoveries exciting. Elden Ring boasts a strong artistic vision, from its sophisticated combat to its immersive art direction. But it's the level and exploration design which brings its world together through player agency. There's no shortage of games with good combat, but much fewer open world titles feature maps that feel as natural to engage with without artificial handholding. And at the time of release, Elden Ring was able to pull this off on an unprecedented scale, which makes some flaws forgivable, like the subpar lock-on system. As in Zelda, a few markers point in the direction of big boss fights, but progression is completely open. Exploring is interest-based, and you have to learn the world mechanics on your own. Before you even get the ability to level up, you could already be dumped into a late-game dungeon. The first Castle Stormveil was a roadblock for many players, but you can find ways past it if you explore. Which is kind of the point. These roadblocks give you incentives to try find alternative ways. In particular, if you start a new game, it becomes clear how free you are to plan out your game route, which dungeons and items to tackle first, where to grind, and so on. There's hardly any story limitations. The map horizon is full of vantage points to which it naturally guides players. Zelda was a bit smarter about sticking the carrot in front of players' faces. No matter where, there was always a destination, thanks to the shrines glowing with bright colors. And the traversal mechanics made you reach them faster. but payoff was rare. Climb every mountain, lose yourself in forests. This is where Zelda shines. But what awaited at the end was usually the same shrines and goblin camps or place the stone puzzles and useless weapons that break. Zelda hard compromised its previously famous dungeon design. Elden Ring went beyond that. The big complex Souls dungeons with all their twists, dungeon specific mechanics, backdrops and enemies are a natural part of the open world. Small dungeons, comparable to Zelda shrines, feel like a part of the world instead of abstract minigame chambers. In many ways, these games are different, and Elden Ring can't compare to the traversal mechanics of Zelda, but I'm only comparing the way exploration is rewarded within each system, especially because Elden Ring, actually more so than Breath of the Wild, shares some of the DNA of the very first Zelda game. In that groundbreaking original title, you traversed a deserted land freely, with lots of underground dungeons, with switch puzzles, and one boss enemy guarding a unique treasure, while vague hints by NPCs and a few key items created a slight amount of invisible gating. A modern version of that would be more like Elden Ring without the chops system. Now, with no shrines glowing on the horizon, Elden Ring requires you to explore the map sometimes on luck, but the payoffs are more often memorable. Exploring a suspicious ravine, you might find yourself in a huge bastion or secret village. Just when you thought you had all the game elements figured out, Elden Ring proves you wrong. And the rewards feel real. Breaking weapons in Zelda were a balancing measure, but dampens any potential sense of accomplishment. In Elden Ring, each location offers unique items, not always as spectacular as a moonlight sword, but each spell, summon and even buff is kind of unique, rather than a copy with higher stats. Sometimes it does dampen the mood when there's a weapon waiting behind the boss that's unsuitable for your own builds, but it's still a tangible reward which is only found in this specific place. Not to mention that the gigantic set of boss fights and enemy creatures is a payoff in itself, in particular in a combat-focused game. But ironically, Elden Ring didn't completely avoid genre criticisms. My praise for Elden Ring could be transferred exactly to the exploring in Dark Souls or Bloodborne. Yet Elden Ring featured blatant repetition for the first time, even if only after 20 or 30 hours. But in the shorter Bloodborne, there's nothing like that. Each alley, almost every room feels unique, no enemy randomly placed. That's often also true for Elden Ring, but because of its gigantic open world, there are just as many random mobs or rehashed bosses and recycled puzzles. Of course, Elden Ring is bigger and more ambitious, however, that's the point. As a classic exploration game, you could hardly make Bloodborne any better, but its level of detail throughout a huge open world map remains utopian. Even linear games rarely come close to Bloodborne or Souls after all. But this must remain clear. The world of Elden Ring not only has an enormous amount of variety, on top of that, it is completely attuned to the advantages of open world, which have been increasingly lost in modern context. It's not the size that brings the world to life, but intuitive exploration design. After Elden Ring launched, a couple of open world developers were complaining that GPS icons were missing. And after all, one defense of icons and hand-holding in open worlds is often that you just want to get to the action quickly anyway, not wander around or get lost. Now, if that is the case, then you might as well go for linear games. No one likes to get lost, but to dumb down exploration is not the right answer just because it's the easy one. If a game has to be open world, then it should not hamper the genre's biggest advantage, which is the freedom, but make use of it in a smart way, like Elden Ring or Zelda.